Hey girl, this is the Female Passion Project podcast, a podcast that's centered around being 100% authentic with you about this crazy thing we call life. There's so much unknown, so much uncertainty, but if we do it together, it makes life so much more enjoyable. My name is Angelique Vestil. I'm a 22-year-old that just graduated college, and I'm soul searching by traveling around the world. I have absolutely no clue what the heck I'm doing, but I've come to terms with that. I've become obsessed with talking through it all and questioning society, and hope all this will help unleash the best version of you. Expect hilarious co-hosts, real-life stories, but mostly just friends that are just like you and are just trying to figure out this life of ours. I want this to feel like we're sitting in a room doing face masks together or getting margs if we're feeling a little spicy, if you know what I'm saying. Let's define this new era of what life is supposed to be like together, and let's do the damn thing. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about biohacking your productivity. Don't worry if you don't know what that means. I'll explain it later on in the episode, but really just a couple of productivity hacks to help reach your max efficiency when doing your work. So if you want to hear more about biohacking your productivity, keep on listening in. Something I struggle with is staying super hyper-focused on one thing for too long. I literally have the attention span of a toddler, and as someone who's in the midst of starting my own business, it can be really, really bad. Like 1 minute I'm filling out a market research Excel sheet, and then the next minute I'm looking at videos and memes of mice chasing blocks of cheese on a string. Like, my attention span is so bad, and I've tried so many different things in the past to figure out how to be the most productive. I've gone through cycles of having good productivity and bad throughout my years in school, and we'll talk through them a little bit and the techniques I found to be the most productive and the most effective. Now, multitasking is something I've always struggled with, but for some reason, a lot of people out there think it's good. Like, I remember being in job interviews and bragging to companies about how good of a multitasker I was and them actually being impressed. But there have been so many studies proving that multitasking is so bad for you and that it's actually killing your brain and making you dumber or makes your memory worse. Like, I literally remember in college where I would study with music playing, the TV on, checking my phone every 2 minutes, all while studying for an exam. And I wondered why I wasn't a good test taker. It's because I was being overstimulated. I don't know if that's a word. Overstimulated. I really don't think that's a word. But I was being overstimulated by these different things that were going on around me that my brain wasn't able to concentrate on studying. So once I figured out how to biohack my productivity, the end was history. I'm able to do more work more efficiently than ever, and it's super easy to implement once you know. And obviously, I'm not a scientist or anything, but I've done tons of research on this stuff and wanted to share what works for me. Someone who literally has the attention span of a 2-year-old, and maybe it'll work for you too, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how your body works either. So maybe give it a shot, and I don't know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. So what is biohacking? I've been talking about biohacking productivity, but what does that actually mean? Literally, biohacking is do-it-yourself biology to hack your own biology to improve anything in your life. Whether that's increasing productivity, figuring out ways to extend your lifespan, how to sleep better, how to optimize how your brain functions, or losing weight super quickly. Essentially, it can be done through making small improvements in your health, or it could be super Silicon Valley-esque and be as intense as putting a tracking chip into your hand. And no, that's not what I'm suggesting here. I don't want you to put a tracking chip into your hand or your body or your heart or your brain, because I'm not into the whole becoming a robot thing overnight. So I'll just stick to the small improvements in my health and wellness first, and then maybe down the road I'll dabble in the tracking chip. Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. That was a joke and really bad sarcasm. Anyway, So you're probably wondering what the heck biohacking has to do with productivity. Essentially, you can biohack your brain's efficiency in so many different ways. One way to hack your brain's efficiency is by using binaural beats to stay super hyper focused. If you've never heard of binaural beats, don't worry, I'll explain. Binaural beats uses different sound waves and frequencies that pulsate deep inside the brain. It's also a type of therapy to help treat anxiety and stress and so much more. But not only can it help you be more productive, but there have been studies that show it's made people happier, better rested, less anxious, and so much more. And honestly, why not try it? It doesn't hurt to listen to some sounds for a few minutes either. So how do binaural beats work? The tones used in binaural beats can naturally shift the way your brain processes information. The tone is created in the brain when it uses two different frequencies at the same time. And really, when it comes to being more focused or even getting a better night's sleep, all you need to do is change the state of your brain. And a lot of that can be done through different sounds and frequencies. So the higher the brainwave frequency, the more alert or awake you feel, and the lower they are represents stages of sleep and rest. So there are 5 different brainwave states. There's gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And no, I'm not naming a sorority. It's just the different names of the brainwaves. So gamma brainwaves are the highest frequency you can achieve, whereas delta brainwaves is when you are deep, deep, deep asleep. So when you're sick, you want to have more delta brainwaves than usual. So the tones made with the binaural beats helps your brain reach these different states depending on what task you're focusing on, whether that's sleeping or whether that's focusing, whatever it is. So essentially, I like listening to binaural beats because I think it helps my brain reach that state of max productivity without me even noticing. Because the tones are so deep inside your brain, you don't even know you're listening to music. Where sometimes I'm listening to music and I get so distracted, or I'm singing along, or I'm getting confused with like the different sounds I'm hearing and hyper analyze it because literally, like I said, I have the attention span of a 2-year-old. So with binaural beats, I don't even notice I'm listening to sound, but my brain knows. So it gets to that state of max productivity without me even noticing. So binaural beats can be found literally anywhere. There's apps like Beatfulness by Mindvalley or Brain.fm that you can download, but there's also YouTube playlists and Spotify playlists too. Just look up binaural beats focus if you're trying to focus. Like there's ones for binaural beats sleep too, or relax, whatever it is. A lot of them on YouTube, at least because I use YouTube because I'm cheap. A lot of them on YouTube are over 2 to 3 hours long, which makes it super easy when doing work because you could just leave it on and forget about it. Even when you take a 5-minute break, you don't need to pause it because you could just take out your headphones, right? So what I found the most effective for me when it comes to my productivity is not only using binaural beats, but combining the use of binaural beats with something called the Pomodoro technique, which is super easy to implement too. The Pomodoro technique is a time management method that instead of working against time, works with time. So essentially what it is breaking down your work into 25-minute intervals separated by 5-minute breaks, which are called Pomodoros. They can be done at the max of 4 times before a longer break takes place. So that's 2 hours in total, 25 minutes working and 5-minute breaks on and off. During that 5-minute break, you can do anything. Go to the bathroom, check your phone, grab a sip of water, whatever. But once that 5 minutes is up, the idea behind the technique is to get back to work. And after 2 hours of the 4 different intervals, I take a longer 15 to 20-minute break to give my brain a little breather and then repeat until my tasks for the days are completed. It's super, super easy. So the idea behind the technique is that it creates a sense of urgency where instead of having 9 hours to complete a task, you only have 25 minutes to be as productive as you can to work towards completing a greater task. For example, say I'm doing data entry. I don't do data entry, but say I was. And by the end of the day, I needed to input 600 data points into a system, right? 600, that's a big number, and it sounds super intense. And if I looked at that at 8 a.m., I'd be like, oh my God, I have to do 600 of these, and I'd feel super overwhelmed right off the bat. And like, even though I have 9 hours to complete it, like, it still sounds super intense. But if you look at it in 25-minute intervals, you can look at it as if, oh, I need to input 60 data points during this 25 minutes. That number sounds a lot less scary than 600. And yes, 60 data points every 25 minutes, you'll be done in like literally no time, like 4 hours, 5 hours. I don't know if I'm doing that math right. 6 hours. 6 hours. So does that make sense? Like, it makes your brain think you're doing less work when you're actually being more productive. So another reason why the Pomodoro technique works is that there have been so many studies that show the max productivity will usually hit at about 10 to 15 minutes into doing your work. So instead of getting only one of these spikes in productivity and reaching your max productivity only once during a 2-hour straight work period, by breaking it up into 25-minute intervals, you'll get 4 of these spikes during each one of those intervals. So instead of getting 1, you get 4, which is awesome, especially when you're trying to be productive. So since you only have 25 minutes to focus on one thing, and you literally see that clock and that timer going off for the 25 minutes, you don't have time to even think about doing other things. Like, whereas if you're focusing on something for hours and hours, you start thinking about a lot of different things. Oh, I have to go grocery shopping, right? Or, oh, I forgot to do this yesterday. I have to be sure to do it today. Because you only have 25 minutes to focus on one thing, seeing that clock and the time, it doesn't let you think about doing other things. But say if something does come up during that 25 minutes, instead of jumping into that right away and like thinking about that and focusing in on that, what I do is I just like to write it down so I'm reminded after the 25 minutes, oh, this is something I need to do by the end of the day. And I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it right now. Because like I said, your brain shifts so fast, and it actually takes 25 minutes to refocus in on one thing. And so that's what you don't want. You don't want to keep refocusing on new things. You want to stay focused on one thing for 25 minutes. After 5 minutes is up, you could start a new task or complete the last task you were doing. But I like to do it because it gives me a little breather, and I know for a fact that I'm being productive within the 25 minutes, whereas over the span of 2 hours, I could do I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So anyway, I hope that wasn't confusing, and I hope that all made sense to you. So that's my way of biohacking my productivity, combining binaural beats and dividing more work into Pomodoros of 25 minutes work and 5-minute breaks. And I'm not saying this will 100% work for you, because everyone has different bodies and everybody functions differently. So this is just what works for me, and honestly, it doesn't hurt to try. I've tried so many different things over my lifespan of being productive and trying to be the most efficient, because I feel like most people who go into entrepreneurship are actually super lazy. So they try to do the fast route into things, and that's something I've tried to do my whole life. I think that's why I've always tried multitasking, because I thought I was getting a lot of things done at once. So I've tried a lot of different things. This is what works the best for me, in my opinion. But obviously I'm not you, so I don't know if this works. But if you do try it, let me know what you think, if it worked for you, if it didn't work. I'd love to hear your feedback, or if you have any other productivity hacks, I'd love to share that with other listeners out there. So feel free to message me on Instagram or in the Facebook group too. And if you're not in it, it's just the Female Passion Project Facebook group. And feel free to message me or shoot up a discussion post in there and let me know, because it's something I still struggle with. Yes, these techniques work, and there are times where my brain does wander off a little bit, but it's a lot less than before, when I was doing giving myself hours of time to do one task. So yes, I still struggle with concentrating, like don't get me wrong at all, but I've found this to be the most effective for me and my body and the way I think and the way I process information. So yeah, let me know what you think, and thanks for listening. I hope you loved this episode just as much as I loved sharing it. And if you loved this episode, I'd so appreciate it if you shared it with your girlfriends, or even better, on your Instagram story, and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me share my message. And if you didn't vibe with what I've been throwing down, maybe just keep that to yourself. I'm still really kind of new here, and I'm just trying to figure out my life. Anyway, love ya. Talk to you soon.